We're going to start this song off by imitating the piano chords along with the vocal lines. If we break it down, we're going to start with the vocal line, which starts like this. But my trick is, how am I going to incorporate a keyboard part along with that? Well, being based off of the B minor chord, there's your keyboard, and then you also have this dissonance on the second chord. So combined we have, and I'm using the open string, keeping the same position, to play both the keyboard and the vocal lines. Because it's based off of an A7 chord. When you're putting these parts together, you have to be very careful about separating the piano part from the vocal part. An example of the opposite of that would be to play the two together, for example. This is level one of how a lot of guitar players would play the song, but in separation, the piano part is on the beat, on the downbeats, and the vocal line is actually syncopated with it. So we have this. Bass part comes in. Slide up the bar chord. And keep that first finger sliding from the 5th position to the 7th position, and now we're going down to the 2nd position bar chord. Let's try that together. That gets you into your ensemble when the ensemble comes in. What I'm hearing when I work this up is the vocal line, the descending bass line, and a strum in between all of that. And sometimes the vocal line will even fall within the strum, and that's okay because it works out perfectly. As we descend on these chords, the beautiful thing about this section is that the melody is in between the bass and the harmony. This is pretty rare for solo guitar arrangements, but it works very effectively in this passage. So we're moving on into the next section where the bass notes would normally be like this. And since I don't like to break my registers, I like to keep my bass notes in the same register when possible, I simply took out the first note, the D, and then started with the E. Notice that I'm using pizzicato again, just like we did in We Are the Champions. When I listened to the original version, I noticed that that part of the song had a different, quieter feel. And to imitate that, I applied this technique, and it gave it that character that I was looking for. And then bring your second finger over to the E and plant your third finger here on the C sharp, which will enable you to execute this next run. And you start playing the vocal lines, the three-part harmony that I try to imitate as much as possible, simply with the three fingers over here. Slide by means of the bar chord to imitate the glissando that the harmonies are
this chord right here, I didn't necessarily need the third finger, but I am pre-planting because when I go to the next section, it's already there. Therefore, making that transition easier. And coming up here is a beautiful harmony. Bop, 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 bop. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine that with the melody line. And then we're going to imitate the drum part with the muting of the strings and the strum down. The next note being A, I could use this one, or I could use the open harmonic for a lot more flair. At this point, we need the glissando of this A to a revoicing of this A to give us that equivalent of the harmonies glissandoing up. And then the high octave. That's your imitation of the lead guitar parts, which he does a lot of overdubbing on his studio work, so we have to imitate that by placing as many of the voices as possible. And then continuing on. To the next verse. Solo, at which point
I noticed that Brian May has a really bright tone on his guitar, so to imitate that, I'm using the plucking near the bridge saddle, for example, as opposed to here in the middle. You can hear the difference in tone. So to imitate that, I'm going to play the lead, and I'm also going to strum the chords close to the bridge saddle with the fingernails. And together we have this. Basically, what's underlining this guitar solo is a bass chord pattern. So to incorporate the two in together, you get slide. That's what I'm hearing Brian do. Brian gets lots of overdubbed parts, and so we imitate that by hitting the 3-string chords, and then onto the solo with chords below it. All based on the B minor and A7. So to make this simple, I simply put in just the bass notes as the rhythm keeper. Now we're going to imitate the 3 guitar lines that are coming in simply by breaking up a little chord up in the higher register. Next chord, A. Next chord, D7. And then, since he's doing a lot of double harmony, I try to get at least 2 notes in at all times. To the G minor chord. Let's do that again.
notice the third finger sliding. Second finger slides. Second finger. Second finger. Third finger stays. Common. There's your harmonies. Second finger slide. And then we're going to do a little slide up. Let's get our two fingers right here prepared. Let's do that again.
And then back to the verse.
We're pre-playing our fourth finger up here to prepare us for the C sharp that's getting ready to come out. And then the F sharp, E chord to the A chord.
This is to imitate the sustained vocal lines that I'm hearing in the actual recording. I do this by alternating the AMI fingers.
Now, what I'm having to do is I'm hearing the high voices. I'm hearing a guitar coming up that is incorporated within the chord. So instead of hitting this E right here, just to add a little bit more movement, I'm going hitting the harmonic on the 12th fret. Same thing, but with an A minor chord. Once again. There's Freddie coming in singing again. And then there's a little harmonic there that I heard in the original recording, which I had. So we have together, we have again. And then back to the verse.
Now we're going to move up into the 14th fret and do a D chord, and this is how we're going to end the song.
But after I do another high, I start playing the lead guitar part that you hear as a fade out. And normally, simply simplified, it would be done, and your bass note would come in. But if you want the register, then you may pluck harmonics with the right hand and get the same effect. Until fade to black. The original idea I had was to actually physically play the highest notes on the guitar neck.
That'll take us to the end of this song, but I'm going to do it again, this time much slower, and see if you can follow along.